How's it going, guys? As promised, I'm going to be giving you guys a Holy Pally guide. This guide is a little late. I should have been able to get it done a little bit ago, but I've been a little bit preoccupied with trying to prepare for the tournament. All my free time has been going into prepping healers and, practicing with the team and whatnot, as well as the fact that there was like a little like hint of Lightsmith going on that kind of like, left me a little confused on whether or not like it was a more appropriate build. And I've tested it a bit, and I'll talk about that a bit as well. This is, a rough outline of how I'm going to discuss the guide. So, if you want to skip along, you can kind of follow this in order to, like, kind of fast forward. Like, if you don't actually care about, stats, macros, add-ons, things like that, you can kind of jump towards, like, the spec or, whatever. Pros and cons of Holy Pally. So, Holy Pally, to me, is... And what mostly feels like, the best way for me to describe it is a wall of defense. It has a lot of cooldowns, and the skill cap on Holy Paladin, in my opinion, is how you rotate those cooldowns, as well as your teammates' cooldowns, to keep you in the fight for as long as possible. Holy Paladins have a ton of healing throughput with wings up, and their healing throughput is neutered pretty hard once wings falls off. So it's kind of about balancing, like, how you're gonna make it to the next wings, if that makes sense. And if you do it well, you're a machine. You're unstoppable. And if you do it poorly, it's gonna feel like, now I have low healing and I have low cooldowns, and it's not gonna feel so great. So kind of the pros and cons there, I guess, is the skill cap on how well you can rotate it. It makes it much more difficult in Shuffle, in my opinion, because you can't coordinate how your teammates' cooldowns are used. I would also say Paladin is not the most offensive healer, and I would say that's one of the cons. Last patch, I would say it wasn't really a con, because basically Paladins were so powerful to the point where you would just outlast your opponents every single time. You didn't have to be offensive. It feels a little bit more of a con in this patch, because games can end. Paladins did take some nerfs. It is much more difficult to kind of outlast people. But yeah, they're definitely still good. If I had to say, like, where they would rank, I'm not exactly sure which healers are in the top, but from a tournament perspective, I would say there is 3 healers borderlining 4 with Mistweaver, Disc Priest, and Holy Pally. Prez kind of being the outlier, maybe niche in some situations. On ladder, Prez is much more powerful because, not everything is super meta comps. And then, in my opinion, like, from a competitive standpoint and a ladder standpoint, if you're trying to push, Holy Priest, Resto Druid, and Resto Shaman are kind of almost unplayable. They just don't feel good at all. So Paladin's still up there on the top half. I'll go over my add-ons briefly. If you ever have any questions, feel free to jump in the stream and ask. This is supposed to stop, like, the reload error or something. I don't even know if you need this for this expansion. I just have it from last expansion. This is a folder I got from Bic Mex's Discord, European Hunter, that's supposed to fix your add-ons that worked in Dragonflight that don't work in War Within. Better Blizz Plates is my add-on that allows me to show the number over arena frames. That's a common question, as well as hide my friendly player nameplate when I have the arrow add-on. So also another add-on that people ask a lot about. Big debuff shows bigger debuffs on your raid frames. Great for dispelling. Details is how I track stuff over here. Diminish shows me DRs for myself and my teammate. Frame sort keeps you at the bottom of the frame. Can also keep you at the top of the frame if that's what you're interested. And this is irrelevant. My slot is for copying action bars and stuff. For Tournament Realm, not really relevant. Nameplate Buffs is the add-on I personally use for nameplates. You could do it through Better Blizz Plates. I do not. Omni Bar shows me any enemy CDs. Omni CD shows me friendly CDs. S Arena 2, updated by Sammers, is my arena frames. True stat value just kind of shows you when you're getting to, like, the diminished value on your stats, which doesn't actually matter because you shouldn't be here this season, but if you want this add-on for next season, that's fine. Trophy GCD is for you guys to see what globals I use, and then obviously weak Rs. Weak Rs are incredible. I'll try to go over, or, maybe show you a couple quick weak Rs that are nice for my Paladin that maybe you guys would potentially want, and, you can pause the stream here for the link. So this is an Awakening weak R. If you're talented into Awakening, you can see how many stacks you have. And then you can see when your Judgment is available to go ahead and proc that melee wings. It's pretty nice. Blessing of Anshi will tell you when you have a powerful Holy Shock proc. Not as important to know now since it got nerfed a little bit, but still kind of nice to know, like, if you have, like, a juiced up Holy Shock. If someone's kind of top, you don't need to just send your Holy Shock, I guess, in order to, save a little bit, you could be a little bit more efficient, let him take a little bit more damage and use the Holy Shock. Or you could have that proc and know, like, if you're coming out of a CC that you have a lot of healing, allows you to be a little bit more vocal. Forb on raid frame, this allows me to see whether my teammates are on forbearance or not. This is actually pretty nice for shuffle. Especially if you have a Ret Paladin on your team or something, you can see if they're on forb. You can see if their teammates are on forb. You might need to kind of move it around with these arrows. I think that's how I do it to get it exactly where you want. Forbearance for myself. Trackable. This may actually be out of date. I'm not 100% sure. It might still show 30 seconds. But it probably just shows the debuff, honestly. Handed Divinity shows you how many stacks of Handed Divinity. Divine Guidance, if you play Lightsmith, will show you how many stacks of Divine Guidance you have. That one doesn't have a thing. I apologize. Wings Duration. Kind of more important when you play melee wings, I think, so you don't end up, you know, using a bunch of globals into not having wings. That looks like all the ones that I use for my Paladin mostly. The only one I would say is super important that I like is kind of the Forb. The Forb one helps me a lot. Macros, I don't think I use any crazy macros on Paladin. I'll go through them all. You can decide, you know, if it's something you're interested in or not. Just a self-cast Holy Shock. This is just a macro to show me the wall cooldown instead of the current one. Cast sequence for auras, target to target Hammer Wrath, target to target Judgment. I Rebuke Arena 1, 2, 3. Macro for Gateway Control Shards, so I don't have to click that. This is just a macro to allow me to have one button for both abilities. Might not even need this, honestly. It might actually automatically do that. I'm not sure. Self-cast Word of Glory. I have two macros here that's actually probably a little overkill, but sometimes I fight comps and I'm coming out of a CC and I actually need to press so many buttons out of the CC that I end up either just dying or having to bubble. So I literally just made a Swifty one-shot heal macro that, you know, if I press it, it just does everything I need to do. I need to wall, I need to Battle Master, I need to Fire Blood, I need to Wings, I need to Holy Shock, you know, I'm not... It's obviously faster to do it this way. Not super necessary. This is a macro you can use to easily buff your, you know, sanctification or whatever. It's just a one click. You don't have to click it, put it on your weapon, whatever. I have a Repentance, Arena 1, 2, 3. Focus, Hammer of Justice, Bop Party 1, 2, Bop Self, Dispel Freedom. Basically all these are Party 1, 2 macros, self macros. I use Party 1, 2 macros for Sack, Bop, Freedom, Dispel. I have a lot of Party 1, 2 macros. Maybe not super important, but when Melee Wings was popular, I really can't stand playing Melee Wings where I'm like attacking this guy, then it's like, okay, I gotta target this guy, okay, I press Bop, and then I start attacking again. Like, I hate it. I felt like I was super inefficient, so I just made a whole bunch of macros. So like if I'm smashing damage on this guy when Melee Wings was viable, I could Freedom my teammate, I could Bop my teammate, I could stack my teammate on CC, so on and so forth. I don't even know if I use this anymore, but I could, maybe it could be on my bar. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's on my bar, but just Serena, Pet, Taunt, 1, 2, 3. Doesn't really matter. Maybe it's okay. It's just a tooltip thing. Stop casting on my Blessing of Sacrifice. Focus Rebuke. Sack Party 1, 2. So yeah, some pretty standard stuff there. Stat priorities and enchants. So there's two different builds. I don't actually know which build you would want if you were to play Melee Wings Lightsmith. I would say there's basically two builds right now. Caster Holy Paladin, which still plays Herald of the Sun, and Melee Wings Holy Paladin, which might want different stats. But for Herald of the Sun, from what I understand, and I am by no means a Holy Paladin main, I think you're just trying to go for like as much mastery as possible. And then on the enchants is pretty basic stuff. The reason why I have cursed critical strike rating on this, which I don't actually think is necessarily the better enchant, is because my gear on live is just scuffed. You know what I mean? I just tossed... I tried to do what I could without, you know, going too on certain stats. If you ever want to use cursed enchants, just make sure the stat you're taking from is not one that you actually care about. So for example, I think Curse Mastery takes crit. You don't really want to lose crit as Paladin, so if you want to use Mastery, just regular Mastery, that's fine. And maybe that's why I used Curse Crit, because I think that takes haste, and I don't super care about haste. I think the Lightforge build might want more haste. I'm not 100% sure, I just kind of play it with Mastery. But I do think Melee Wings enjoys more haste. Legs, you want the mana increase. Chest, you want the mana increase. I think most Paladins use Fire Resolve. It's the only healer that actually uses this enchant. And I think the reason why is because this enchant really only does a lot of healing to yourself. But on Paladin, that's something that's kind of valuable, because it's just trying to keep that, like, Necrotic Strike, you know, this thing, the Light of the Martyr, off of you as much as possible. So it's the only healer that really is getting a lot of value out of this enchant. Bracer speed, cloak speed, I don't have it. Boots, you could do stamina. It doesn't really matter too much. I think you want mainly mastery as this build, maybe some haste as the other build. In terms of crafted gear, embellishment, and tier, you definitely want 4-piece on Paladin. I do believe that my gear is proper in terms of skipping legs. I'll double check that. It's possible legs is better than gloves. In the reality, it doesn't really matter. I think if I could go back in time, I would probably wear legs. Like, if I was, like, in tournament or something, I'd probably wear legs. Because I think the crit is probably better than the haste. Because crit's always been pretty good on Holy Paladin. In terms of embellishment, you're probably just going to use the Ascendance embellishment. The one that goes on the weapon, then you armor patch it. I am currently using the energy redistribution beacon, but on Paladin it just doesn't feel good because once again it's putting you under the threshold of your Light of the Martyr, so it just doesn't feel good. On top of the fact that it's kind of already hard to stay above 80% of Holy Paladin because you're always hurting yourself, so it's tough. Crafted gear, I mean, I would say in most situations in this expansion, crafting the gear is just better than buying the regular gear. Like, you can see, like, these are Algari. I probably have some more. Like, that's Algari. It just allows you to balance your stats more as opposed to being super verse heavy. I could craft more if I wanted to. I just haven't really been playing my Paladin too much this patch. So if you have the gold, you can craft it. If you don't have the gold, just go for the mastery pieces, and if they don't have mastery on Conquest, then I would recommend crafting that. If you're someone who plays 3v3 specifically, kind of gauge where you're at. If you feel like you're losing games on mana, you can go for the mana meta gem, and what that's going to do is you got to make sure that you have 5 different gem types. That's why my gems are kind of weird. What this is going to do is it's just going to allow you to have a little bit more of a mana pool. So the way you get mana restoration on Holy Paladin, Blessing a Winner, Tyrion's Devotion, Reclamation, and Divine Revelation, I'm pretty sure are all percent-based mana. Maybe not Reclamation, but basically if your mana pool is increased, all those abilities give you more mana on top of the fact that you already have more mana. So it's going to give you more gas in the tank. So that's why I'm using this. In terms of if you're a shuffle player, completely unnecessary. Just go for precog or the damage reduction when you're CC'd. Because you're not going to run out of mana in Soul Shuffle. It's just kind of irrelevant, you know? And then in terms of, you know, gemming, if you're not using this, if you're not using the 5 different ones, you're just going to go for the Mastery Verse, or Mastery Crit, whatever you prefer, or Haste if you're playing the Lightsmith build. In terms of spec, I would say on the right-hand side, I am almost always kind of like locked into this. This is kind of like my go-to as Herald of the Sun. This is great in terms of mana restoration. And 3v3, if you're going to play solo shuffle, you would probably just move this point to here. I'm pretty satisfied with this build. I don't know if there's much else that needs to be or could be changed. If you feel like you're flash-lighting a lot, you can maybe do something like this. And then in terms of like honor talents, I don't change my honor talents often. You have the option of Divine Plea if you feel like you're ooming, but it's kind of like a big drawback, so be careful with that. Into Death Knights, you definitely want to play Judgments of the Pure, because if they strangulate you, you can immediately judge, and you'll always get it off. Into Boomkins, you could play Judgment of the Pure, you could try to judge them and get out of their own root beams, but you don't even need to do that because, you know, other reasons I'll tell you in a second. Versus Unholy Death Knights, even though they're kind of extinct right now, I kind of like Short Divine Vision because their biggest cooldown is 1 minute and 30 seconds. This gives you 1 minute 30-second cooldown Arm Mastery. You could Arm Mastery every single one of their CDs. So I would drop Searing Glare for that, but, you know, some people actually just play Hollow Ground on top of the Judgment thing, so when you drop the Consecrate, you get like freedom over and over, essentially. It removes slows. It's pretty nasty combo. And on the left side, there's definitely a couple talents that you can switch out. I would say that what you're seeing right now is probably closer to my, if not closer to, is basically my standard build. With the only exception being if you want like permanent rep, or if you feel like, especially if you're playing like with a different paladin in Soul Shuffle, like a rep pally, you might want Lights Revocation. I don't know how to read, forgive me. In which case you could drop something like this. You could potentially drop like the speed on Blessings. In Soul Shuffle, you're probably gonna get value out of that, so you could probably drop that. And then in order to get, I'm trying to like show you the flex talents. Like this is a flex talent, this is a flex talent, this is a flex talent. Technically speaking, like this could be a flex talent here as well, but this talent's actually pretty decent because it heals per effect. So if you're not dispelling a lot, you could do this. After image is pretty awful. It doesn't count towards your awaken stacks or anything either. So those are kind of your flex points there. in order, you know, what you can do. Spammable rep, obviously, pretty solid. And we'll speak of Herald of the Sun. I think it's like non-negotiable what you play in this tree. Well, this one's negotiable, I guess, but it's pretty irrelevant overall. You have to play on Shay. I'm pretty sure Morningstar is just always better. And then in Lightsmith, if you're playing melee wings, some people play Blessed Assurance, some people play Divine Guidance. I think that's kind of personal preference. You have to play Tempered in battle. I'm pretty sure the proc armaments is just straight up better than the reduced cooldown armaments, and the 2% primary stat is better than the stamina or whatever. So I'll talk about the differences between the two builds as we continue. Healing rotation on Paladin is very, very simple. You're literally just a Holy Shock, Word of Glory bot with a splash of potential casted healing every once in a while. In my Herald of the Sun build, I personally prefer Divine Favor. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's better. I prefer it. Some people will swear by Hand of Divinity, and that's completely fine. Divine Favor, in my opinion, is going to give you healing more frequently, as opposed to the longer cooldown with Hand of Divinity, which is going to give you another almost kind of cooldown to rotate. Now, I could see why people prefer Hand of Divinity, because it allows you to kind of like go behind the pillar and cast it and toss it out when burst is coming. The reason why I don't like it is because it feels like when you go behind a pillar for like Hand of Divinity, you have to cast your tears, and then you have to cast your hand, and it kind of feels awkward to me. It feels like very slow, and I personally really like when, you know, I press my Barrier of Faith. Every single Barrier of Faith, I get my Divine Favor, and it allows me to just get healing out more frequently. So I personally prefer Divine Favor with that, but Hand of Divinity is a completely fine option. So yeah, the healing rotation is you're literally Holy Shocking and Word of Glorying on cooldown. I will, as needed, I guess, right? I will talk about kind of both of the specs here a little bit. I think that Herald of the Sun is infinitely easier to play. I think Herald of the Sun is probably better in 3v3, and Lightsmith is probably better in Shuffle, but Lightsmith is super awkward. And I mean super awkward, and it's uncomfortable. Like, it does not feel great to play, but it has a lot of power. So if you're looking for easier, Herald of the Sun. If you're looking for a challenge, Lightsmith. But yeah, one of the reasons why I think Herald of the Sun feels so much easier to play is because every time you press your Barrier of Faith, it literally just gives you so much healing because you get this Word of Glory up. It allows you to kind of smoothly run through that rotation of healing, whereas Lightsmith does not have that, and Lightsmith, you're constantly like juggling HP with Tempered in battle. It's like the most powerful heal. It's the most powerful talent in Lightsmith, but it is the most awkward one to play with. So yeah, back to kind of what I was saying with the healing rotation. There's really not too much to it. I mean, you have Holy Shocks, you have Word of Glory. I think the main thing to recognize is that you kind of want a Holy Shock on CD. It's how you build your Holy Power. It's how you generate your Holy Power. So you're going to be Holy Shocking on CD, you know, Snorefest. And when you get into this situation right here where you have no Holy Shocks, this is kind of where I like to either, you know, throw out my Divine Toll or throw out my Barrier of Faith. I prefer to kind of like run out of healing before I'm deciding that I need those. So, you know, let's just kind of take it from the top here, right? So we're healing this guy. You know, it's a Holy Shock. It's a Holy Shock. You know, we do a Word of Glory. We proc another Holy Shock. We proc another instant heal. We got a Word of Glory here. Now that we have none of this, and we have none of this, I like to throw out a barrier. So with this barrier right here, you have to determine whether you want to cast or if you want to use the instant, okay? So let's just say we can't cast in this situation. We got to wait a little bit. We could throw out another Word of Glory. Obviously, we're talking a little bit, but now we have some more Holy Shocks. Getting Dornagald right now with a turbo lag. Alright, now we're in a situation where we have no Holy Shocks, we have no procs, we have no Barrier of Faith. This is where you can kind of throw out the Divine Toll. It's going to fill your Holy Power. Not only that, it's going to allow your next Holy Shocks to continue and further fill your Holy Power. So we Holy Shock, now you get the triple Holy Shock, you Word of Glory. Next Holy Shock, you're going to get the triple Holy Shock, we Word of Glory. We procced again, you know, we do the Word of Glory. Now we have a, you know, another Holy Shock, we Word of Glory. Like, you're just able to infinitely rotate. Now we have Barrier of Faith. Let's say we can cast a Holy Light with this one. Boom. Now we Word of Glory. Now we Holy Shock. So you could kind of like juggle those heals forever. What I will say is how I like healing is I think a lot of people say they struggle really hard with healing through this Necrotic Strike. What I like to do on Herald of the Sun Pally is I try to keep Beacon off myself at all costs, and I try to heal myself a lot. Every time you heal yourself, it's going to transfer to the double Beacon. So, like, if this guy's dying, there's times where, like, I'll just Holy Shock myself. Try to keep a Word of Glory flame, Eternal Flame on yourself, but you Holy Shock yourself. You know, you toss a couple Word of Glories on yourself, and yeah, it's really, really, really important to keep yourself over this threshold. But keeping Beacon of Light off of yourself is going to ultimately do more healing, because a lot of the healing that you do is not going to transfer to you because you're going to have that Necrotic. The only time you really want Beacon on yourself is you're hard being trained, because of the fact that it gives you damage reduction with this talent. And it will also give you Saved by the Light if you drop low. So generally speaking, you don't really want Dornagald again. You don't really want the Beacon on yourself unless you have to. It's very important to know that Divine Toll gives you the double Holy Shock, but also very important to know that Wings gives you that double Holy Shock. So really good ways to do a lot of healing, and really good ways to immediately generate a Word of Glory immediately. You want to make sure you're not overcapping Holy Power. If you have full Holy Power and you have a double Holy Shock, don't press Holy Shock, because then you're overcapped by 2 Holy Power, and you're wasting your Holy Power there. You want to make sure you're being very efficient. But yeah, alright, so let's talk about Lightsmith a little bit, and why it's super uncomfortable, and why it's super awkward. Why is this build super, super awkward? And why is it also very powerful? So, the entire power of the build here is because of Holy Armaments, okay? The reason why Holy Armaments is insane as melee wings is because when you press wings, you give out a Holy Armament, which is always a weapon. Now, the reason why it's crazy with melee wings is because melee wings is a 1-minute CD. So you're getting twice as many weapons. On top of that, when you proc your Awakening, you get another weapon. And why are these weapons crazy? It allows you to share your HP. Basically, they have to kill 2 people in order for someone to die through this weapon. But it also makes it really uncomfortable, because all of a sudden your HP is plummeting at times where you're not being attacked. If you have a weapon on them and you're being attacked, their HP is plummeting. It feels really, really awkward to play around. But it's obviously very, very powerful. So, like, in a normal game of melee wings, it's normally going to be like, you know, you melee wings, you throw out your weapon, you do damage, you do damage, you do damage. And, you know, the build changed a little bit, by the way. You drop tiers and you play these 2 talents because you want to judge on CD. You also don't cast a lot, so you drop Tower Radiance. You don't really need this, though. You could play Revelations, you could play Tower Radiance if you want. You just don't cast a lot as this build. Also, this build doesn't cast a lot with Divine Favor, so having Hand of Divinity dipping behind the pillar feels better at certain times. But yeah, all you're trying to do in Solo Shuffle with this build is you are trying to survive until you get those weapons out. So you use your wings, you get a weapon out, and normally you'll like throw out your Holy Bulwark between... if you have to use another weapon between your next melee wings, you can. Let's just say you do it. And then you don't want to wings until this weapon is gone, or else it'll put it on someone else and you overwrite. Also, the wings is like proximity. So whoever you're closest to, it's going to proc on the closest person, which is something that you definitely need to recognize, because you want this to go on the person that's dying. That way you're constantly splitting HP. And then when you're finally able to also get an Awakening proc, that'll give you another one. The build is unbelievably awkward to play, but crazy powerful. Tempered in battle will heal while you're in crowd control. You could also manipulate it really hard. So, like, let's just say this guy has a weapon and you're at full HP. You could bubble and they could die, and they'll start siphoning your HP, but you're immune to damage in bubble. So you can literally just instantly top somebody in dampening with your bubble. It really is crazy. I mean, Trill, I don't know if he's ever played Holy Paladin before, and he cooked up this build. He's the one who told me about it. And he queued Solo Shuffle one night as someone who, I think, never played Paladin before. And he got to rank 2 Holy Paladin. And he plays a lot of haste. Like, he's not even Mastery. So that's why I was saying I don't know which stats are actually better. So yeah, Trill, someone who's actually, I think, never played Holy Paladin before, cooked this build up and immediately went to the top. It's obviously a very good build. It's a very good build, but, like, it's super awkward to play. I can't even explain it. I could honestly, after I'm done this, add a video of me doing a solo shuffle as melee wings because it's so awkward. Like I don't even know how to discuss it. So moving on a little bit. Damage rotation for Holy Pally in threes, I don't do it often unless I feel like I need to because it's mana inefficient. Is you could judge for Greater Judgment. It's actually not mana efficient in order to do that. You have Hammer Wrath, which is, you know, something that is actually relatively cheap in order for 1 Holy Power, so it's good. As well as Crusader Strike is good for 1 Holy Power. But Pally doesn't really do a lot of damage. I mean, I don't Holy Shock often. It's almost never. I do try to Hammer Wrath when available. And in Shuffle, I definitely try to Judge when available, especially as Melee Wings. The Melee Wings build is very powerful. Your Judgment heals you, could heal your teammates, and also could proc a lot of healing if it crits. So judging on CD is really important as Lightsmith, as well as the fact that when you use your Infusion, it reduces the cooldown of Lay on Hands. So Lay on Hands cooldown's like super short as this build. But yeah, there's not really too much going on in terms of damage rotation. In terms of cooldown rotation, this is a really tricky one. So I'm going to talk about Herald because I think that Herald is going to see more play. And I'll talk a little bit about Lightsmith and we'll queue a Soul Shuffle as Lightsmith. But basically, as Herald, I just try to go 1-for-1 in terms of how people use cooldowns. I'll talk about some of the really popular specs right now, which is Beast Mastery and Feral Druid. I'm trying to think if there's any other classes that I really always line up 1-for-1. Like if you fight against Shadow Priest and they use Power Infusion. When I'm saying 1-for-1 is Incarn's a 2-minute cooldown, Stampede or Call of the Wild's a 2-minute cooldown, Power Fusion's a 2-minute cooldown. You're almost essentially always going to use your wings with those cooldowns. You want them to line up. You don't want to be caught in a spot where later in a game they press Incarnation and you do not have wings. It will not work out in your favor. So you kind of go 1-for-1 in those regards. And honestly, versus Hunters, I bop every single Call of the Wild every single time. Bop is a 4-minute CD with 2 charges. Basically, if they press Call of the Wild, you can press Bop 3 times in a row on that cooldown before you run out of bops. If games are going longer than that, you can kind of determine whether or not you want to skip the second one or skip the third one, because you're probably going to use wings on it anyway, especially because most hunters are paired up with feral druids. But yeah, if you're fighting like feral BM, you're gonna bop the Call of the Wild and you're gonna wings the Incarn. Shadow Priest, you're gonna wings the Power Infusion. So on and so forth. Versus Unholy DKs, I talked about a little bit earlier, but you know, Aura Mastery on their CDs is very powerful. They have a 1.5-minute CD on Unholy Unholy Assault, so it's going to be like a really awkward time where your wings is on a 30-second CD when they get CDs back up. And kind of between your wing CDs is where you're kind of really relying on your Barrier of Face, your Divine Tolls, and your Bops and your Aura Mastery in order, and potentially even Lay on Hand Sack, in order to actually get you through to that next wings, as well as potentially getting Awakening procs to, you know, allow wings to come through. But I don't know if I could tell you exactly how you're supposed to rotate every single time. I will say 99% of the time I just put Blessing on myself every single time. I think the only exception is the one that increases healing received. If someone's getting tunneled into the ground and you know they're the only person getting tunneled to the ground, you can put that Blessing on them, because they're going to take 30% more healing instead of you doing 15% more to them. So, and if they do any self-healing, that one will double dip a little bit. I guess basically what I'm trying to say is wings to match CDs. You could also, you know, bop Incarn or Call the Wild to, you know, match that. And then Aura Mastery, Sack, Lay on Hands are going to be used in between. You kind of tiers on CD too. I'm not spec'd into it. And then, you know, Divine Toll and Barrier of Faith are kind of like a mini CD baked into your rotation, which in my opinion are mainly used for Holy Power generation, as well as like, you know, the triple Holy Shock. Those are really, really good. Mana efficiency on Holy Paladin. Things that are really bad to do on Holy Paladin. Casting Flash of Light without Infusion, bad. Or should I say mana inefficient. Casting a Holy Light without Hand of Divinity or Divine Favor, turbo bad. Like, you might as well just kiss your mana goodbye. Judging on CD, surprisingly very bad for your mana. Don't worry about it as Lightsmith build, but as regular build, judging on CD is very bad for your mana. If you're struggling with mana, definitely play Tyrion's Devotion. Try to get 2 Lay on Hands per game. We'll give you a little bit more. If you're struggling with mana, try to play the Mana Gem. Make sure you use 5 different unique gems. That way you get maximum benefit out of it. If you're super struggling on mana, what you could do is in Arena Prep, you just zone into the game. You know it's going to be a long game. Just use your Blessing of Summer immediately. So basically, the game's going to start. You're going to use your Blessing of Autumn, and the game is starting, and you're already rotated to winter, essentially. So it allows you to kind of get, one cycle faster on your Blessing. Other than that, it's pretty hard to actually on Paladin. The only way you're going to is if you're healing without procs, aka, these two, or your infusion. Sometimes you have to. I would say that using Flash without infusion is far less devastating than just casting Holy Light without the other one. I mean, this is 45,000 mana. It's not going to feel good, but with it, it's like 18, so, it's obviously way better. Positioning on Holy Pally, I would say you're generally pretty defensive unless you're pushing in for a Hodge, Blind, Rep, things of that nature. Just kind of be aware of, like, what CDs you have. If you're pushing into a spot where you have no Trinket, you have no Bubble, you have no Sack to avoid CC, you might just be putting yourself in a terrible position, in which case I would recommend not doing it, unless it's, like, gonna secure the kill. Like, oh, you're gonna go CC the healer, they have no Trinket, the other person, is low, then you can go for it. Otherwise, I would say you're relatively, very defensively positioned on Holy Pally. You're just kind of trying to be that brick wall, hard to CC, don't run out of cooldowns, etc. You're trying to just kind of outlast the opponent. Complete opposite is Lightsmith. You're kind of like in their face, you're melee wingsing. You could back out without melee wings for sure. Try and survive to your next melee wings, but yeah. Utility on Paladins, your bops, freedoms. One thing that, you want to make sure you're doing is use freedoms. Just press them. Your teammates are going to love you. Freedom makes you run really fast, too. You get 15% from Echoing Blessing, you get 15% from Blessed Calling. You press Freedom on someone, and they literally just run 30% faster. It's insane. I would say their CC is probably, like, some of their better utility. Bop, Freedom, I guess their Blessings, and Crowd Control. Like, Hodge is a really powerful crowd controls. It's Kidney Shot, essentially. A dispellable Kidney Shot, so getting that out is definitely going to be feeling really good. If you're fighting against a Boomkin, if you play Steed of Liberty, you can literally just Divine Steed and get out of Root Beams. Fantastic mechanic for that. Thank you, Blizzard. You lose freedom, but versus Boomkins, it's really nice to just have no thought process about it and just know that you can get out of Root Beams every single time. Dealing with kicks on Holy Pally, I'm going to be honest, man, I don't cast very often. And when I do cast as the other build, sometimes I'll have, like, the Divine Favor buff. I'll cast a Holy Light. But what happens when you have this Divine Favor buff is you get a free Word of Glory. This is something I could definitely talk about. You get a free Word of Glory, right? So, like, let's just say you have 3 Holy Power. You get your Divine Favor buff. You're casting a Holy Light. You get kicked. While you're locked out, you can literally use Eternal Flame into Eternal Flame. And then just start casting your Holy Light again. Like, sometimes I just tank kick on Holy Light, and I genuinely don't care. You know what I mean? Because you have 2 heals back to back. So if you have 3 Holy Power, and, you get the proc, which you should have from the Barrier of Faith, you can just tank the kick. But yeah, other than that, you really don't cast very often as Holy Pally. The only thing I could say is, I say it in all my videos, try to be, if you feel like you have to cast a lot, just try to be a little unpredictable with your fakes. Fake fast, fake late, fake in the middle. You can't do the same thing every single time, or else you're gonna have a bad time. How to kite well, survive. Yeah, I feel like Paladins are actually kind of good targets. I said as Herald the Sun, you really don't want Beacon on yourself. If you're being trained in the ground, you want to make sure you swap Beacon on yourself just to make sure you get the 5% damage reduction plus this save by the light. But yeah, I mean, most of the kiting is literally just going to come from freedom and divine steeding and kind of like getting away from people. But if you're being like super trained into the ground, you could play Hollowed Ground, and Hollowed Ground is going to make you feel like, you're untouchable. Every time you press Consecrate, it removes all of your slows, and it has a super short cooldown, and it costs no mana. So this is definitely a talent in which, like, if you feel like you're being trained into the ground, like if you're getting peeled and you just keep dropping this Consecrate, which is also really nice for your teammates, like if they're trying to peel, they're trying to get these people off you, your team is going to be free from slows, you're going to be free from slows, and you're just going to be able to get out. Like, it's probably still good to freedom yourself for the speed, but Consecrate is going to allow you to kind of like further extend that. And then other than that, I mean, surviving, it's all about, rotating your CDs. You could obviously use your Divine Protection while you are in stuns prior. Potentially Aura Mastering for damage reduction before CC hits is a really good way to use this cooldown for both self-survivability for yourself or your team if you're getting pre-CC'd. It's one of the ways I really actually like using this ability. It's buffed in PvP. It gives 24% damage reduction in PvP, so it's pretty nice. And yeah, and in terms of offensive and defensive, I would say you probably want to try to get your CC as often as possible without risking yourself being CC'd. So you kind of have to determine whether or not, like, you're in a position where you can potentially go for the crowd control without being CC'd yourself, or some of the best times to go for crowd control is after already being on crowd control, because what can they do at that point, you know? Like, they already CC'd you. Now it's your turn to kind of, you know, go free, I guess. In terms of comps, I mean, Holy Pallies, in my opinion, are still, you know, we talked about it in the pros and cons, are like a little bit of a defensive healer. So, I don't really see him too much on ladder these days, outside of, like, you know, the Feral Shadow Priest still. What else have I seen them run with? Shadow Priest Rogue. It seems like Holy Pallies still really like Shadow Priest. I'm going to queue a shuffle. We'll see if we get one as Lightsmith Paladin. Lightsmith Paladin is super duper awkward. It's all about just trying to keep this armament up on your teammate while, you know, juggling your HP. And yeah, it's really awkward. It's really awkward. It's so awkward to the point where I've actually never felt like I had to like do an arena in order to kind of show how awkward it is. But we'll try to do that. So we are Lightsmith Holy Paladin. I'm going to try to show you guys a little bit how it works in this shuffle. It's super duper awkward. The macro I showed you earlier allows you to cast your weapon immediately. Anytime you change your spec, you're going to need to redo that. I personally don't really like Searing Glare as this build because I never press it. I don't really cast a lot as this build, so we got to rebuff this because we changed our thing. Do I want to change anything else about my build here? I don't necessarily think so. And let's get to it. My guess is that the Fire Mage is going to be the main target of choice here. So I want to make sure that on my first melee wings, I am closest to my Fire Mage, so I put my weapon on him. If I put my weapon on him early enough and I get trapped, it will take my HP while I'm in the trap and it won't hurt me, so it will, like, infinitely heal my mage with Tempered in Battle. It's kind of overpowered. Outside of that, I'm probably going to throw some bops on the Stampedes. With this build, you don't have a lot of magic buffs, so if you're not playing with a class with magic buffs, you need to free them before you throw out the bop, or else they have a 100% chance to purge it as a hunter. Yeah, I'm going to push in right here. I'm going to try to hodge this. Looks like he's going to ring it. Okay. With that, I might actually just... I'm just going to hodge this guy here. Hodge this guy here. I'm going to press my melee wings here. He's got a good altar up, so he's got a weapon right now. So if I get CC'd, he will be in essentially zero trouble. So I'm going to get trapped right now. If he drops below 40%, he'll start siphoning my HP. I'll sack here. I tried to sack here. I sack here now. My melee wings is over. My weapon's fading. If I can get behind the pillar right now and get I'm gonna use a bulwark here. This guy's just kind of like turbo lining me. I mean, bro, what's going on here? If I can get this thing up right now, it'd be pretty nice. Probably gonna trinket this here. My mage just doesn't want to get healed this round, I guess. It's unfortunate. So right now we're just trying to survive until the next melee wings. I could throw out my weapon as is. I have lay on hands. I'm probably going to use a lay here. I got a bubble lay. Alright, so we made it to our next melee wings. I should have maybe used thing earlier. If you melee wings, if you proc a weapon when they're under 40, they won't actually ever get the healing from it, which is a little unfortunate. So getting trapped right now is completely fine. If he drops below 40, we'll siphon our HP. I need to get a Hodge on the Shaman at some point here. We're going to use our third weapon after this. We need to rewrite our weapon with a weapon here. I don't actually know if he's in range of it. Okay, so he is. Okay, we're going to get a Hodge on Shaman here. DR. So, like, as you can see, this is, like, super awkward. I have triple Holy Shocks here. I'm actually just going to bubble. Don't have it. Forgot I used it earlier. We're kind of both dying here. Okay, this game was really bad. There's no better way for me to explain it. The reason why this game was really bad is because when I went over here to get my thing up, my mage went over there. He didn't peek my line. And then I had to use a lot of, like, really poor CDs. This guy also did negative damage, so it's unfortunate. Don't actually care, but... yeah, it is what it is. Bad round. Go next. You could, like, look at my healing here. Tempered in Battle was my #1 healing, but I didn't really flow very well this game. In terms of, like, how I actually procced weapons and whatnot. I'm kind of curious who is going to be the kill target here. I could throw out this Blessing of Winter immediately because it doesn't actually matter. I'm just going to go ahead and... I tried to get this on my mage, but honestly, I whiffed and I was too close to Hunter, so Hunter is a weapon now, which means my mage is actually probably in a little bit of trouble here. I'm just going to go ahead and sack some of this damage on him. Still trying to melee wings. I'm just going to hodge this guy right now because I don't actually care. Give him a shield here. Use this to top myself up here. So we got to judge on CD. Judging on CD is very important. Gonna go ahead and use Aura Mastery right now. Got a triple Holy Shock out here with the Divine Soul. I'm actually gonna use my increased healing on the mage because he's obviously the target here. Get my thing up here. Get this up here. Get my freedom here. Instant Holy Light. Instant Holy Light. Trying to avoid the fear. Couldn't avoid the fear. Gonna go ahead and use a weapon on my mage right now. I'll lay him here. So now we're gonna split HP, but since I did this, he's gonna take my HP here, so it's fine. I'll just heal myself behind a pillar. But since I did this, now I can't use my melee wings for a little bit, or else I'll overlap with the other weapon that he already has. But yeah, I'm just kind of back here. I know I said don't Holy Light, I'll but I'm doing it anyway, because it is what it is. I'll give him this shield here, and then after I give him the shield, I'm gonna give him a weapon once the other one expires. We're gonna start trading HP again. Gotta line this, I'm bad. We're still trading HP. So right now, my biggest issue is that I'm like super out of weapons for a while. So what I'm gonna try to do here is, I'm gonna buff him because he needs healing. I'm gonna try to use a whole bunch of Holy Power. That way I could start working on getting, why am I not getting decursed? My Awakening proc. And with this Awakening proc, I will proc melee wings on my, I guess, Hunter. Proc it on, or I'll proc a weapon on my Hunter here. Okay. Consecrate here for healing. Gonna hodge this guy here. Just gonna use this here as well. Sack this guy here. So I can get another weapon out. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna weapon this guy. Oh, dude, we got a double weapon there. Okay, so now all of our HP should be sharing. I'm just gonna actually bubble at this point. I'll lay... Don't have lay. That's perfect. Buff this guy here. So we're in a really awkward spot right now where I haven't topped him over the 40% mark. Is there a reason I'm not getting out of this? Okay.
I did not expect this.
If you proc a weapon under 40%, it doesn't actually heal. I probably should get percentages on for that, but I'm kind of lazy. I could have probably friendly nameplates, so many nameplates. This guy's just complaining. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. As you can see, this build is, I mean, this guy's doing nothing. Whatever. This build is obviously a lot more complex and kind of annoying. I don't think I should be losing this lobby. I don't know if this Fire Mage is going to go 0-6 or what, but he's doing like a quarter of the damage every round. But when he fights me, he's probably going to do top damage, though, so, you know. Soul Shuffle Life. I could bop here first global. If he pops Stampede, I will bop. I think he's going to be the kill target, so I want to go ahead and get next to him here. Use my melee wings on top of him. I would like to hodge this guy. I actually have told myself time and time again it's actually really bad for me to go for the hodge while I have melee wings up. Okay, I'm gonna give this guy a weapon here as well. Probably should have did it earlier. So I'm gonna like a little bit of an awkward spot here because two people are dying. Makes like the tempered in battle super awkward. I'm just gonna go for this. If he kicks me, he kicks me. I don't care. So I consecrate to top myself up there. Need to judge on CD. Am I blind here? I'm rep. I should probably be blind. Maybe not. I don't know. Probably gonna sack this lock right now. I didn't actually bop the Stampede. I probably should have. Freedom this guy here. Judge on CD. Still 2 bops as needed. Probably just gonna bop this guy again. I have a weapon coming up pretty soon here. I should get decursed. Thank you. Who do I want to put my weapon on? I'll put my weapon on this lock. Perfect. So in this situation, I'm actually going to put, since they're attacking 2 people, I'm going to bop someone here. I'm just trying to figure out who it's going to be. I'm going to bop this lock here. I'm going to lay my mage there. a weapon immediately off of this weapon, and I'm really close to another weapon with my procs. Unless I want out my mage, I can't tell. Oh man, I really can't tell who I want it on. Like the fact that it's splitting. I'm just gonna put it on my mage here. Melee wings, kind of staying out a little bit. Alright, I'm gonna be able to proc another weapon right here. Move next to my warlock to proc it. Pick this, okay. Should get decursed, should get decursed. Full hodge with that. We got one more bop. Probably gonna have to bop soon. I'm gonna go ahead and give this guy a shield here, and I'm gonna, once his weapon falls off, I'm gonna immediately melee wings, proc another weapon. So we're kind of feeling like that brick wall I was talking about earlier. My warlock's got a weapon right now. If I want to, I could, if he like dips low, I mean, I'm just gonna press bop on him here. If he dips low, I could literally just I'm gonna freedom on top of the bop, so he doesn't have a high chance to purge it. He actually purged the freedom, so good play by me. I'm gonna hodge shaman here. Alright, so now we're out of weapons for a while. But, I mean, this is kind of a point of potentially damp that cannot come back. I'm just throwing literally every single CD in the book right now. Sack, Aura Mastery, send it all. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to weapon this guy. And if he drops below 50%, I'm just going to bubble. I'm actually just going to bubble right now, assuming he's going to drop below 50%. And he will just spam siphon my HP. But I was wrong, and he did not drop below that percentage in that, so I kind of wasted my bubble there. Check W.
I see who the strongest mortals are. For now.
I don't know who they're gonna go here. It's kind of awkward to like try to determine. You could just use Blessing a Winner in the. I'll just go here. I could just bop here, honestly. I think I'm going to. I want to hodge this shaman. Alright, who are they killing? I don't know who they're killing, so I'm like kind of weirded out here. Killing the hunter? I don't know. Pressing melee wings. Oh, we got a double. Augers in the lair. Freedom my guy here. Not freedom my guy here. I'll sack fall here, I guess. Wasn't on me. One more judge here. Okay, melee wings is fading. I'm gonna back out a little bit. And trying to get this up here. Pick this here. Gonna give this guy a shield here. Might just hodge this guy here. Nice fit. I use my shield before. I'm gonna stand in this right now. I would really like to get what's it called on this guy here? Trinket. Got a weapon up. Don't know if he's in the 40% threshold. Looks like he is. I don't know why this guy is NSF. Gonna try to hodge him here. Gonna hodge his trinket maybe. I don't know if I messed up there or what, but currently not melee winging on purpose here. I can maybe send another bop here, we'll see. I'm just gonna press it, don't care. Also freedom so he doesn't have a high chance to spell steal it. Gonna melee wings here next to him. It's kind of awkward. Alright, right now he's got weapons, so even if I'm CC'd, it just completely doesn't matter. None of this matters. So as you can see, I'm gonna split HP, but I'm gonna use a weapon anyway, or I'm gonna use a shield anyway, because we're kind of taking a good amount of damage. I want to take a little bit less damage. And a Divine Toll here to get triple Holy Shock. We don't have a weapon right now, but I could proc one in now. Proc one right now. Procking a weapon here. Oh, he's dead, nice.
I did not expect this outcome.
That next judge would have procced another weapon, so it's OP. Trying to figure out how Beam Hunter only has 2 wins right now. Question mark. Question mark. Holy Shock, get some holy power. Give this guy first global. Need to get a weapon on this guy. Nothing matters right now. I have a weapon on him. It does not matter if I take any CC. It'll heal through everything. Out on the hunter though. I'm gonna use a weapon on warrior here again because I feel like the polys might be coming. A double blink through a thing. Just DR thing this here. Into a kick. I could try to sack this poly here. I think I will. Use a shield here. I might have overcommitted my stuff here. Surprised to see that they're actually on the on sheep tier. We have no shield out or no weapon out, which means it could be a bit of trouble. I need to make sure that I get close to the warrior for my next melee wings. I think I can just send it here. Very nice. I think it's nothing apparently. So we have a weapon out on warrior right now. Warrior can't die. Hunter can die. Oh, this guy might be able to ground it. It's a little obvious. I'm gonna re-weapon this warrior, I think. I think I will re-weapon the warrior here. We have triple weapons out right now, right? Did I get this one out? We didn't get this one out. We'll do it later. So we have triple weapon out. Means we're all gonna share HP. I could even bubble right now if I need to. I think I need to. Last is kind of annoying. I laid myself there. Maybe I should have just bubbled this, actually. Not playing the talent. I don't think I judged enough this game. Also, I think we're trolling by not going on the mage, because I think this mage died, like, super easy. I think I'm bubbling really soon, by the way. Get myself topped up. I'm just gonna go for triple weapon here while I'm in bubble. Should be able to top everybody. I could actually re-weapon the warrior here. I mean, bro, this is just ridiculous, man.
This just means more entertainment for me. Oh, so close.
I feel like this game can really attest to the power of this build. I don't know why my warrior's running away when these guys are at no HP, but it happened easily. No way, bro. That is the latest tie I've ever seen in my whole life. But I will say, this warrior leaping behind the pillar when the guy's at 1% HP. This guy's talking shit on me. Said, freedom me, dispel me. Don't leap behind pillar when they're at 1% HP and die? Question mark? Try to get a weapon on this guy immediately. I might trinket this here, honestly, because he has no weapon. I could just bop someone. I don't think I want to bop the warrior, though, right now. I'll do it, man. Put this buff on me here. I'll shaman here. Back ring, maybe. Okay. Get my warrior weapon again. Wonder why I streamed the shaman. I don't hate it though. Shaman suck. He'll pet there. I don't care. Scatter. Another shield coming up really soon for this guy, so I assume he's probably fine. Or sorry, another weapon. I got a wings here. I had to lay there, I meant. Probably wouldn't have had to lay there if I just used my shield a little bit earlier. He's got weapons, so he's kind of unkillable here. I'm gonna use a shield on him right now.
So close. This just means more entertainment for me.
Another weapon on him here. I'm already kind of close to proccing my next weapon, so should be kind of chilling. I just bubbled this, honestly. Probably should have did better there. What can you do, though? GG's. Awkward build. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you ever have any questions, feel free to jump into the stream and ask them.
That's what they call me. I promise that you never be lonely. Be the band.